on a planet called Caith Prime, which had 2 suns. There were tall crystal towers that reached up into the purple sky. Flying ships hummed through clouds of golden dust. Princess Liara stood alone in the royal garden. Her green skin sparkled like sea glass in the bright light. Her left leg was twisted from birth. No technology could fix it. This made people think she was broken, not good enough, and a shame to the royal family. That morning, the Emperor, her father, made an announcement. He would send her to Earth to a simple farm. He said it was for cultural exchange, but really, he was sending her away. But no one knew that this exile would become the biggest rebellion the galaxy had ever seen. Before we start, subscribe now so you don't miss more amazing stories like this one. Oh, and tell us in the comments, where are you watching this video from? We love hearing from you and always read every message. The space pod came down through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star. Its outside walls groaned against the heat from entering the air. Inside, Liara pressed her hand against the window. She watched continents of blue and green replace the familiar purple horizons of home. No one had come to say goodbye. Not her 3 perfect sisters. Not her brother, who would become emperor instead of her. And definitely not her father. The farmland stretched on forever below, a mix of brown and gold colors under a single yellow sun. The pod landed gently next to a small farmhouse with peeling white paint and a saggy porch. Through the window she saw him. He was tall and weathered, with sandy brown hair catching the afternoon light. James Howard wore simple clothes, faded jeans and a work shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows. He stood at a respectful distance with his hands in his pockets, waiting. When the door opened with a hissing sound, Liara took a breath of earth air. It was heavy with water and smelled like growing things. She walked down the ramp slowly, her left leg dragged behind her. Her hand gripped the rail tightly. She wore the simple gray dress her father had ordered her to wear. Nothing royal, nothing special. Her green skin seemed to soak up the sunlight. James watched her struggle down the ramp. Something in his face changed. It wasn't pity. She had seen enough pity. This was different, maybe concern or simple human kindness. "Miss Liara," he said. His voice was low and steady like distant thunder. "Welcome to Earth. Can I help you with that?" "I can manage," she replied. Her accent carried the musical sound of Caithian words. "I'm sure you can," he said. "But sometimes we all need a hand." "Nothing wrong with that." She paused, studying him. His eyes were gray-blue like storm clouds over wheat fields. They looked right at her without looking away from her leg. He simply looked at her, really looked, as if seeing a person rather than a problem. "Very well," she said quietly. He offered his arm instead of trying to lift her. She took it, and together they walked down the steps to solid ground. His arm was solid, warm, and steady, so steady after months of shaky palace floors. "The house isn't much," James said, "but the guest room has a good view of the east field. Sunrises here are something special." "I'm sure it's adequate," Liara said with practiced royal dismissiveness. "Automatic. Your pod mentioned dietary restrictions. I talked to a scientist who studies aliens at the university. Had to drive 3 hours, but I wanted to get it right. I bought plant-based foods that should work. If I got anything wrong, we'll figure it out together." Liara stopped walking. In 7 months since her father announced the exile, no one had asked about what she needed to eat. "You drove 3 hours?" she asked. "Well, yeah," he said, rubbing his neck. Seemed important. "Can't have you starving on my watch." But while she searched for words to respond, a sleek black vehicle came over the hill beyond the north field. Its engine purred with expensive precision. Liara's stomach clenched with familiar dread. Someone from the Caithian embassy was coming, and they never brought good news. The diplomatic transport landed on James's lawn with casual disregard for his property. Ambassador Vex came out, tall, perfectly shaped, his green skin perfect, his formal robes flowing with tiny lights embedded in them. He was everything Lara was not, whole, graceful, favored. "Princess Lara," Vex said. His voice was technically respectful but dripping with contempt. "I see you've settled into your new circumstances." "Ambassador," Liara replied, straightening her spine. "I wasn't told you would be visiting. A surprise inspection. Your father wishes to make sure Earth is meeting your special needs." James stepped slightly forward, positioning himself at Liara's shoulder. "James Howren," he said, extending his hand. "You must be from the princess's homeworld." Vex looked at the offered hand as if it were diseased, making no move to take it. "I am Ambassador Vex, third in line to the Obsidian Throne, military governor of the Outer Reaches, bearer of the Emperor's voice. And you are the farmer assigned to house the princess." "I prefer to think of myself as the person hosting the princess," James said, lowering his hand. "She's a guest, not a package." Vex's eyes narrowed. "How quaint. Tell me, farmer, has the princess been useful? Has she helped with your farming work? Or is she as useless here as she was in the palace?" The words hung like poison. Liara felt her breath catch. "Old wounds reopening. That's an interesting question," James said. His voice was level, though something sharp entered his tone. "What makes a person useful?" Vex laughed like breaking glass. "A princess who cannot stand for ceremonies, cannot dance at state functions, cannot do the physical duties required of royal bloodlines. What purpose does she serve?" "I'm authorized to give a test," he continued, pulling a crystal device from his robes. "Standard protocol for exiled royals. It measures physical ability, mental sharpness, cultural knowledge, and strategic thinking. The princess will either pass or confirm what we already know." Liara knew this test. She had failed it twice before, and if I refuse? She asked quietly. "Your money is taken away, citizenship questioned, exchange ended. You'd be returned to Kaith and placed in the royal hospice." The hospice, a pretty name for a prison where broken princesses disappeared. "I'll take the test," Lara said. "Now hold on," James said. "She just arrived. She's exhausted, hasn't eaten properly, hasn't adjusted to Earth's gravity." "The test is standardized," Vex interrupted. "Besides, if the princess cannot adapt to basic environmental changes, that itself is valuable data." He activated the device, which began hovering at chest height, projecting rotating holographic symbols. First challenge, physical endurance. Complete this path in under 2 minutes. The hologram showed a course through James's fields, over fences, through the irrigation ditch, up the hill near the barn. For someone with 2 working legs, it was difficult but possible. For Liara, it was designed to embarrass her. "Begin," Vex said. The device counted down. 120 seconds. Holographic observers appeared. Vex had activated a live feed to the Kathian embassy. This was entertainment to them. No one believed she would even try, but the way James looked at her, with neither pity nor doubt, just steady certainty, made something shift inside her chest. And she realized this test wasn't measuring what Vex thought it was measuring at all. Lara stood at the starting point, breathing shallow, looking at the holographic course. The timer continued. 90 seconds remaining. The Kathian observers whispered, "She won't make it past the first obstacle. Why does Vex even bother? This is cruel." But James was watching Liara's face, seeing calculation behind her eyes, fingers twitching as if counting steps, measuring distances. She wasn't looking at the course like someone beaten by past failures. She was analyzing it. "70 seconds," the device announced. Lyra moved, but not toward the first obstacle. Instead, she limped with deliberate speed to James's tool shed. Vex frowned. "What are you doing?" "That's not—" "You said complete the path," Lyra called back, her voice stronger. "You didn't specify how." She came out carrying a long wooden plank. The observers' whispers grew confused. Lyra positioned the plank across the first fence, creating a bridge. She crossed carefully but efficiently. Her bad leg dragged, but her balance was perfect. She repositioned the plank for the irrigation ditch, using it again rather than trying to jump. "The seconds." "This is cheating," an observer shouted. "Is it?" James asked Vex. "Your device said complete the path. It's measuring strategic thinking, isn't it?" "She's being strategic." Vex's jaw tightened, but he couldn't argue. For the hill, Lyra changed tactics. She dropped the plank and used the fence line, running parallel to the slope, pulling herself up hand over hand, using posts for support. Her arms trembled, but she moved with methodical efficiency. Seconds. The observers had gone silent. Vex's expression shifted from smug satisfaction to something harder. Lyra reached the final marker with 4 seconds to spare. Chest heaving, green skin glistening, but standing. "Physical challenge complete," the device announced, proceeding to cognitive assessment. The holographic interface displayed a complex 3-dimensional puzzle. Spatial reasoning involving rotating geometric shapes. Lyra had failed this at 15, shapes swimming before exhausted eyes while her tutor sighed. But something was different now. Maybe the adrenaline. Maybe James standing there radiating quiet confidence. Lyra looked at the puzzle and saw simply a problem to solve. Her fingers moved through the holographic interface with practiced precision. James noticed she was solving it unconventionally, working from center outward instead of the traditional outside-in approach. More efficient, though unorthodox. Cognitive assessment complete. Score, 97th percentile. Someone gasped. Vex's expression could have curdled milk. "Cultural retention," he said sharply. Lyra answered each question about Cathian history, protocol, and tradition correctly. But she also provided Earth equivalents, demonstrating not just retention, but synthesis, bridging 2 cultures. Cultural retention complete. Score 94th percentile. The observers were stunned, silent. "Final phase," Vex said, something dangerous in his voice. "Strategic thinking and moral judgment." The device projected a scenario, a complex diplomatic crisis involving resource distribution, political alliances, and ethical considerations, the kind of problem given to someone in line for the throne. And just when everyone thought they understood what was happening, Lyra proposed a solution that made even Vex step back in surprise. She hadn't just answered the question, she had reframed it entirely. The holographic scenario hung in the air. 3-star systems, resource scarcity, competing territorial claims. Lyra's solution was radical. Mutual vulnerability. You would have the Cathian Empire share technology with less advanced civilizations? Vex asked, voice sharp. Make ourselves vulnerable by elevating potential rivals? I would propose we create partners instead of subjects, Lyra replied steadily. The scenario shows resource scarcity, but scarcity exists only if we maintain isolated systems. Share agricultural technology, energy solutions, medical advances. All 3 systems benefit. Resources multiply rather than divide. That's not how power works, Princess. It's not how power has worked, but perhaps that's why we keep facing these same crises generation after generation. Strategic assessment complete, the device announced. Analysis. Unconventional approach demonstrates high-level systems thinking. Cross-cultural synthesis, innovative problem-solving. Score, 99th percentile. Overall evaluation, exceptional across all categories. Absolute silence followed. Vex stared at the device. Impossible. She failed this test twice before. There must be calibration errors. The device is functioning correctly. A new voice interrupted. A fifth holographic window opened, displaying an elderly Cathian woman with deep jade skin and ancient eyes. The Imperial Advisor, Keeper of Records. Advisor Crest, Vex said, suddenly respectful. I wasn't aware. I monitor all tests of Imperial bloodlines, she replied. Princess Lara, do you know why you failed before? Lara hesitated, old shame rising. Because I'm defective. No, child. You failed because the tests were given in the Grand Palace, in rooms designed to amplify traditional Cathian excellence. The architecture itself was biased. Your mind works differently. Not worse, different. The palace suppressed your natural patterns while enhancing your siblings. She paused. Your mother understood this. Before she died, she left instructions with me. Instructions I was forbidden to reveal while you remained on Caith. But now you've left Imperial soil. I can carry out her final wishes. A new projection appeared, showing a document sealed with the late Empress's seal. Your mother wasn't originally from the Imperial bloodline. She was from the fringe colonies, where cooperation and adaptation were survival skills. She brought those values to the palace. But after her death, the old guard took control again. And you, inheriting her thinking, became a target. Tears stung Liara's eyes. Your mother's will states that upon your 23rd birthday, or successful completion of the Imperial evaluation, whichever came first, you inherit her estate. Not ceremonial property, but her real legacy. A network of agricultural research stations, medical facilities and educational outposts across 17 worlds. An empire of care rather than conquest. She wanted you to continue that work. Why didn't Father tell me? Because he didn't know. Your mother created this outside the official imperial structure, using personal wealth and fringe colony connections. She knew if palace nobility discovered it, they'd seize or destroy it. So she hid it, named me executor, and waited for you to prove yourself. Not by palace standards, but by standards that actually matter. Compassion, innovation, the courage to think differently. When you sent Liara to Earth, James said, it wasn't exile. It was liberation, Crest finished. Away from the palace's influence, she could finally show her true abilities. Her father thought he was disposing of an embarrassment. He was actually setting a future leader free. It wasn't just knowledge, it was legacy. And suddenly everyone understood this moment would reshape the Empire's future. This is absurd, Vex protested. She's still physically defective. She cannot lead. Cannot lead military campaigns, perhaps, Crest interrupted. But the Empire doesn't need more campaigns. We need someone who can build alliances instead of demanding submission. Someone who understands true power comes from the wisdom to cooperate. She turned to Liara. Your mother's network has been waiting. The question is, are you ready? Liara looked at James, this farmer who had shown her more respect in hours than the palace had in 23 years. She looked at wheat fields golden in evening light, at the modest house with honest simplicity. I'm ready, but I have one condition. The network my mother built, I want to expand it to Earth. Include this world in our alliance, and I want James Howard as my partner in that expansion. Ma'am, James said slowly, I'm just a farmer. You researched my dietary needs. You defended me when you just met me. You saw me as a person rather than a problem. That's the wisdom my mother valued. That's the partner I need. Advisor Crest, Vex said desperately. You cannot simply give a colonial network to an untested princess. The Emperor must be consulted. I have been watching, a new voice said, deep and resonant. The largest holographic window expanded to show Emperor Terran himself, Liara's father, looking older than she remembered, eyes shadowed with exhaustion. Father, Liara whispered. The Emperor looked at her, really looked perhaps for the first time. I watched this entire evaluation and Advisor Crest's revelations about your mother's legacy. Your mother tried to tell me before she died that the palace was wrong about you, that our tests measured the wrong things, but I didn't listen. I was young, arrogant, and after she was gone, the old families took control again. They convinced me your disability was weakness, that keeping you in succession would undermine the empire. And I believed them. So you sent me away. Ambassador Vex's family argued your presence was destabilizing, that nobles were using your disability to question the bloodline. They offered a solution. Send you to Earth, remove you from succession quietly, and the whispers would stop. They wouldn't have stopped, Crest said. There's always another weakness to exploit. Vex's family has been positioning for a coup for 20 years. Advisor Crest sent me recordings 3 hours ago, the Emperor continued. Also, 30 years of your family's private communications ambassador. Your intentions are very clear. You've been plotting to undermine the imperial family, create crises justifying military intervention, position yourself as savior. You're removed from your position immediately. Your holdings are under review. You will be investigated for treason. You cannot, Vex shouted. I am third in line. Your family has nothing, the Emperor said coldly. You were third only because previous emperors found you useful. I do not. Guards appeared in the holographic window. Vex's hand moved toward his belt. Don't, James said quietly. You've already lost. Don't make it worse. A human advising me, Vex spat. You're primitives. We could teach you about failure, James said steadily. Real failure. When crops die and children go hungry. When you rebuild after losing everything. Survival isn't about perfection. It's resilience. Liara's disability doesn't make her weak. It's made her stronger than anyone in your palace could understand. Guards restrained Vex as his window closed. The Emperor turned back to Liara. I cannot undo the years I've stolen, but I offer you a choice. Return to Kaith. Take your place in succession. Help me rebuild an empire your mother would be proud of. Or accept your mother's legacy. Build her network into something greater. Create the alternative power structure we desperately need. One based on cooperation. Do it from Earth if you choose, beyond palace influence. Free to think according to your mother's vision. Lyra looked at James, then at the holographic faces watching, some hopeful, some fearful, all waiting. I choose Earth, she said firmly. I choose my mother's vision. And I choose to prove that empires built on compassion are stronger than those built on conquest." The Emperor nodded slowly, something like pride flickering in his ancient eyes. "Then go build something worthy of her daughter. Show us all what we've been too blind to see." And as they walked away toward the farmhouse, the twin sons of Caith setting in one sky and Earth's single sun rising in another, no one dared question the broken princess again, for they finally understood what they had witnessed. Not disability, but destiny. 3 months passed like water flowing into new channels, reshaping the landscape. Lyra's mother's network, 17 worlds of research stations, medical facilities and educational outposts, formally welcomed Earth as its 18th member. James's modest farm became the headquarters for Earth's integration, its fields transformed into experimental grounds, where Caithian agricultural technology merged with human farming wisdom. The transformation was subtle, but profound. James taught Liara about Earth's seasons, about soil composition and weather patterns, about the particular stubbornness of winter wheat. She taught him about improving photosynthesis, about genetic markers that could make crops drought-resistant without harmful changes, about sustainable practices her mother's scientists had perfected across diverse worlds. They worked side by side. Her bad leg was no longer a limitation, but simply part of who she was. James built her a modified workstation in the greenhouse, elevated platforms where she could analyze samples without standing for hours. Tools designed to work with her strengths rather than highlighting her limitations. News spread across both worlds. On Caith, the old nobility watched nervously as more fringe colony worlds pledged support to Liara's network. Young Caithians, tired of the Empire's military focus, began applying to work at her research stations. On Earth, scientists and farmers alike requested partnerships, recognizing that this alliance offered solutions to problems that had seemed impossible to solve. Climate change, food scarcity, medical challenges. Ambassador Vex's trial had revealed something unexpected. His family's coup attempt had been larger than anyone suspected, involving 12 noble houses and 3 military commanders. But the conspiracy collapsed when Liara's evaluation results spread through the Empire. Suddenly, the broken princess represented something the old guard couldn't fight, proof that their standards were outdated. That strength came in forms they'd refused to recognize. Emperor Terran began reforms, reluctantly at first, then with growing conviction as he saw the positive response. He established a new council, including representatives from the fringe colonies. He required accessibility reviews of all imperial buildings and systems. He publicly apologized to his daughter in a speech that was broadcast across 47 worlds, but Liara didn't return to the palace. She stayed on Earth, in the farmhouse with peeling paint that James had slowly fixed up, adding Caithian comfort technology while preserving its honest simplicity. She stayed because here, finally, she could breathe without the weight of palace expectations crushing her chest. And she stayed because of James. One evening, as Earth's sun painted the wheat fields gold and Lara worked in the greenhouse analyzing soil samples, James brought her chamomile tea. Something he'd discovered helped her adjust to Earth's heavier gravity. "There's a delegation coming tomorrow," he said, settling onto the bench beside her workstation. "From 3 different worlds. They want to see how the partnership's working." "Let them see," Liara said, smiling. "We have nothing to hide. Your father wants to visit next month. In person, not holographically." She paused, setting down her analysis tool. "What did you tell him?" "That he's welcome. That this is your home now and guests are welcome in your home. But that he comes as your father, not as emperor. No diplomatic entourage, no formal protocols. Just a father visiting his daughter. Liara turned to look at James fully. This human who had understood from the first moment what the palace had never grasped. That she didn't need fixing. She needed respect. That her value wasn't measured by physical perfection, but by the wisdom, compassion, and innovation she brought to every challenge. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for seeing me when no one else did." "I just saw what was there," he replied. Everything else was the galaxy being blind. Through the greenhouse windows, they could see the experimental fields where Cathian and Earth crops grew side by side, cross-pollinating in ways that created unexpected resilience. In the distance, the research center they were building rose against the darkening sky, a structure designed by architects from 7 different worlds, incorporating accessibility from the foundation up, a physical representation of the new alliance. Lara thought about her mother, about the legacy hidden in fringe colony shadows, about the network of care that had waited patiently for the right moment to emerge. She thought about the palace she'd left behind, and the empire that was slowly, painfully learning to change. But mostly she thought about the future, about the thousands of other broken children across the galaxy who were watching her story, seeing someone like them succeeding, understanding that limitations imposed by others were not the same as actual limitations, about the young Cathians applying to her research stations, eager to build rather than conquer, about the alliance growing stronger every day, proving that cooperation created more lasting power than domination ever could. "Do you ever regret it?" James asked. "Giving up the throne? Staying here instead of returning to Caith?" Liara looked at the fields, at the greenhouse, at this human who had driven 3 hours to research her dietary needs before they'd even met. She thought about mornings watching Earth's single sunrise, about afternoons working side by side solving problems that mattered, about evenings discussing everything from agricultural science to philosophy while crickets sang in the darkness beyond the porch. "No," she said. "I didn't give up a throne. I claimed something better. The freedom to build the world I believe in with someone who sees me as I actually am." And as the stars came out overhead, Earth's, constellations so different from Caith's yet equally beautiful, James reached for her hand, and she took it, and together they sat in comfortable silence. 2 architects of a new kind of empire, one built not on conquest, but on the radical idea that every person, regardless of their body, their origin, or their differences, carried within them the potential to change the galaxy. In a universe that had long measured worth by narrow standards, sometimes a single act of seeing clearly was enough to shift the stars themselves. And sometimes the person sent away in shame returned as a leader who would reshape the future, not despite her differences but because of them, because they had taught her to question what others accepted, to imagine what others couldn't see, to build bridges where others saw only divides. The broken princess had become the Empire's salvation, and the galaxy would never be the same.